When I had my most horrendous eating troubles for all those years, I had so many beliefs inside about food and eating. They were absolutely torturous. Talk about stressful thinking. What are the reasons why we normally eat? We humans normally eat because we're hungry, because we see food, we're triggered by food in the environment. We see photos of food, or there's food actually right there. Out of conditioning, like it's time to eat. It's 12 o'clock and you eat at 12 o'clock, and it's 6 o'clock and you eat at 6 o'clock, and that's what we do together. And then out of disturbing thoughts, because of overwhelming cravings and urges and intensity and a desire to just consume and grab. Doesn't even matter if we're hungry. That's the torture. And I remember having that feeling frequently. I don't know if I could go a day without it, without binge eating at the height of the problem. And this went off and on for years. And I realized, at the time I did not realize at all that I was believing these things. But when I look back, what I was thinking was, what I want is horrible. I shouldn't want what I want. What I want must be controlled. I'm born broken. Something must be missing. I don't know what's wrong with me, but something's definitely wrong with me. I should be ashamed of myself. I am greedy. I am grabby. I am out of control. And I would have these huge binges or eating episodes and feel absolutely horrible and spent. And of course, very shamed, very self-critical, and think I deserved punishment, called the guilt, sin, punishment cycle. A circle of guilt, sin, and punishment, all around eating. There was nothing really great about eating, but I seemed to want to do it. And actually, when I look back and see and how I felt, remembering all those intense cravings, yes, it would feel really, really good the first few bites, especially for an urge or a craving to be met with actual food. It would make it go away for a second. I also smoked, and it was like smoking a cigarette, wanting and craving a cigarette. To have the cigarette makes the urge or the craving go away. But why is all that stuff going on in such a wacky level in the first place? What is happening? And I often suggest, I was just coming out of the Eating Peace retreat. It's just beautiful. Such an amazing session. I always love all the people that show up. And I said, just remember these two key thoughts. Remember these two incredibly stressful thoughts. If you're thinking them at the same time, it's horrible. I absolutely have to be thin. I have to get my body squared away. I have to make it smaller than it is. I have to squeeze myself and whittle myself down into a smaller size. It would be better if it was shaved tinier. I even can sometimes think that now and chuckle, because I just don't believe it. But yes, if I want to look about perfection and what's in the culture and what I've seen about bodies, it seems like it could always be shaved down and get smaller. It's insane how that can be never ending. And once you're down there to that low level and that thin place where you think everything's going to be wonderful, you often notice it's not wonderful. And especially if you haven't questioned any of your inner thoughts like these, and you have to keep and maintain and control and grab and tighten and restrict, and it's got a huge amount of like resistance or shrinking kind of feeling, holding on tight. I must hold on to this. So many people that I've known have reported that they feel like very thin, and people say, oh, they look amazing. They look like a movie star, and they're miserable. They're miserable inside. And that was me. And then I was heavy and I was miserable. So it didn't really matter almost what my weight was. So one of the first key things I always have people question is, I have to be thin, thinner, thinnest. I have to get there or I have to stay there. It is worse. What I noticed when I held that belief was that I was also saying, I don't care if I don't have any peace. I just have to be thin. I don't care if I suffer. I have to be thin. And I would have a voice that would almost berate myself for, be like, yeah, you're too bad. You have to go on a diet. Wah. It was so mean. Like, oh, you can't handle it, you little baby. Just like that. Like a mean big sister, which I actually was. A mean big sister. I was a big sister. Maybe not always mean. Ask my sisters, they'd probably say, oh yeah, you were. But I was that mean to myself. So it's a very critical, rough, bitter, violent voice. And it winds up making us feel like violence is the thing that leads to ending the war. I'm just going to put so much, I'm going to bombs on it. I'm going to attack it. I'm going to just demolish this state of existence, that then there will be peace. Interesting, that's what happens in the human condition. We make war with things, right? And we can completely blow up entire countries, all that happens. And it's a very, very sad way to find peace. It's incredibly inspiring to just about any of us when people arrive at some sort of peaceful place without war. Gandhi was an amazing model of that. He still lives as a model and a hero because of what he did. So just an effort to hold the belief in transformation without violence. Incredible. That's what we do in Eating Peace. Because I find permanent, all-abiding change and transformation when it comes to thinking off balance and eating off balance. It doesn't happen with violent thought. All that violent thought that I had within around my body needing to be a certain way and my wants being the wrong thing. Can't have what I want. What I want is too much. What I want is wrong. Those things matched together just made for constant chaos and battle and agony within. So we begin to look at that. And what's interesting is to address eating peace in this particular way and eating battles in this way and ending this process that we've been in of disruption. You have to be willing to have some compassion for yourself, willing just to have a drop of kindness and willing to look. It is not easy. In some ways, it's easier to follow directions. Somebody tells you exactly what to eat and exactly how much of it to eat and exactly when to eat it. Well, it's very clear. It's sort of black and white. It's also like being in a prison. This is your rations that you get. And the diet mentality comes in. What happens to the part of you that just wants to be free? It's doubtful or suppressed or worried. So we're finding we don't need to shut anything down in that particular way. And yes, it's a little bit harder not to be told exactly what to do and exactly what to eat, except for I can offer people what to question. I can say, I noticed these thoughts that create a lot of stress could potentially not actually be true for you. And we can look at it with inquiry. Of course, we're always using the work of Byron Katie because it's the most simple, short, direct way to question stressful thinking. And I won't say it's easy. It's not, especially when we've had some stories in place for years. We might have learned them from our own parents, our own mothers, our own fathers when we were children, and we just believe that's true. Thinner is happier, and you can't want what you want, etc. Ad nauseum, on and on forever. And we can question these things so that we can find freedom and just see what it's like to stand on our own 2 feet with our own awareness, our own big giant question mark but that we don't have to know, and we can still live with an open mind when it comes to food and eating, and watch what happens. Wow. What's happened for me is there is no interest in overindulging or binge eating or constantly eating when I don't really want to be eating. It just becomes much more clear there's no cognitive dissonance anymore. There's no underlying beliefs that are opposing what the conscious beliefs seem to want, which is thinness and peace or whatever. These unconscious beliefs that are crying for attention, we attend to those, and there's no battle anymore. So we begin to find some level peace, some rest and relaxation. We don't have to use food to handle something that food doesn't really handle. We don't have to do anything with food anymore. It's not an escape, it's not a soother, it's not a comforter, it's just a great, wonderful pleasure. It's actually comforting for hunger. That's a normal thing that it ought to be comforting for. Hungry, ooh, fantastic to eat. What a joy and a pleasure to have a body that you get to do that with. Fullness, great, done eating. Move on to something else. No big deal. No big deal. So I hope if you're interested in this kind of work and this kind of looking, that actually can offer really a permanent way to shift thinking, and no need for yet another new, different kind of diet in the future. We get done with all that looking and chasing after the way to fix it. If that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then Eating Peace is starting Monday, January 27th, very close to the time that I'm actually making this recording. So we're starting soon. Love to have you. Please look at the links below this video where you're watching this, and you'll see the links on the way to join. And love to have you. We go all the way to the end of April, and then we even have ongoing support until June through regular live calls, and there's lots of ways that we all connect with one another. In writing on a forum, membership, pre-recorded lessons to take a look at, just bringing it all together and sharing in a group and dropping all the shame that we've had about food and eating and all the wars. All right, I hope you'll join me. Lots of love.